Welcome to Daily Dose Radio, a 5-minute devotional podcast studying the Psalms verse by verse. Broadcast from the ever-beautiful Sharonville, Ohio, on the sunny side of Cincinnati. Hey there, friends. Welcome back to Daily Dose Radio. This is what we like to call the Bible Bistro. And in the Bible Bistro, we learn all kinds of things. We learn about the Psalms every day, 5 minutes a day, 5 days a week, studying the Psalms verse by verse. That's Daily Dose Radio. And then also in the Bible Bistro now we have the School of Wisdom podcast. Yes, sir, we have that going on right now. We just launched last week the very first podcast in the School of Wisdom, and that covered chapter 1 in the book of Proverbs. If you haven't heard that yet, why don't you go over to YouTube or Spreaker or the Facebook page. You can also find it linked to my Twitter feed. Go there and check it out. Of course, then also in the Bible Bistro is a once-a-week podcast of the weekly sermon at the Creek Road Baptist Church pulpit. So if you've got a chance and you want to hear a good sermon, go over there. Same places. If you go to YouTube, I really would appreciate it if you would smash that subscribe button. Become one of my subscribers there on YouTube. That helps me, and it helps get these podcasts out, because the more people I have subscribe, the more YouTube advances the material. They suggest it to other people who are also looking for Bible study material. So go over to YouTube and subscribe. We've got a good one this week in Daily Dose Radio, and that is the second part of Psalm 89. And ladies and gentlemen, we're going to make much of Jesus this week. I promise you that. We're going to look at today, beginning in verse 19 and read down through verse 22. You'll recall last time we talked about the three-part way in which I was going to teach Psalm 89. I went through part 1 last time, which ended in verse 18. This week, we're going to study verses 19 through 37. Today, 19 through 22. Last time, we ended the section where we were making much of the Lord. Remember that? It was all about the Lord's greatness. God is greatly to be feared in the assembly of the saints. And we talked about that on Tuesday, on Wednesday, on Thursday, and then on Friday we talked about the blessed people who know the joyful sound. Now today we're going to leave off that second person language, and we're going to pick up some first person language, and I better hurry so I can talk about it a little bit. Beginning in verse 19, then let me read for you. Then thou spakest in vision to thy Holy One, and said, I have laid help upon the one that is mighty. I have exalted one chosen out of the people. I have found David my servant. With my holy oil I have anointed him. With whom my hand shall be established. Mine arm also shall strengthen him. The enemy shall not exact upon him, nor the son of wickedness afflict him. Well, right away you can hear the first person being used there, and we have in verse 19 that very first statement, then thou spake in vision to thy Holy One and said. So here we have a vision being reported, probably by Ethan, the one who wrote this psalm. And from here on, from verse 19, the second phrase in verse 19, all the way to the end of verse 37, it's all first person. It's the Lord speaking. I have laid help upon one that is mighty. I have exalted one out of the people. So God has chosen one. He's called and chosen. He's exalted one that is mighty from out of the people. And then he tells us who that is. I have found David. Notice the first person, I have laid help upon one. I have exalted one chosen. I have found David my servant. With my holy oil I have anointed him. You remember when Samuel found the boy and anointed him in his father's home. Verse 21, with whom my hand shall be established, mine arm also shall strengthen him. Well, we know that, don't we? David was certainly a strong person. It wasn't because David was anybody. It was because he had a God who was somebody. He's the Lord of heaven and earth. And then verse 22, the enemy shall not exact upon him, nor the son of wickedness afflict him. Now, we know that David had plenty of affliction in his life, but this promise still stood true, because even though David had trouble, David was always victorious, and the enemy did not exact or afflict him forever. Check me out tomorrow, verses 23 through 26, and we'll look at those on Daily Dose Radio. Thanks for listening to Daily Dose Radio. I'm David Smith. The music today has been performed by the Bluegrass Experiment. Thanks again for listening. I'll see you next time on Daily Dose Radio.